right, so I want to start off with setting the scene, okay, for this discussion. It's just kind of very diverse here, you know. And so, Bio, your first time at Phocuswright Europe, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so 30 seconds. Tell us why we should be excited about the African market or Wakanow. What is it up to right now?
Thank you for having me. Everyone should be excited about the African market because it has the youngest population in the world. That means that the next future of travelers are going to be Africans. The mobility of Africans and the fact that most Africans, a lot of Africans also have migrated outside of Africa and they're starting to find interest in Africa. There's this event that happens in December called Dirty December. It happens in Nigeria. It is, I don't know why it's called Dirty December, but it is a fun event. It's just people come home to visit their family. Right now, for this year, we don't have enough capacity to bring people into the country. We don't have enough beds to put people in. Every hotel is sold out. Every Airbnb is sold out. Every single accommodation option is sold out for a whole month. People stay from the 15th of December to the 15th of January and then spend USD. So again, Africa is the new frontier. What's happening in South Africa, what's happening in Kenya, what's happening in Morocco. The closest of Morocco to Spain and to Europe poses the new future of travel and exploration that Africa is. By the way, when you were showing the chart that showed the percentage of people that use online in the world, Africa was all white. The percentage of online travel in Africa is less than 5%. That tells you that the opportunity is just immense. The ability to sell to those people there is, I can't describe it fully. Remember, Nigeria alone has 220 million people. Africa has 1 billion, over 1 billion people. And most of them are not even shopping online yet.
Absolutely.
That tells you the next growth.
Okay, so Africa, the new frontier, the future. So Ross, come on. Let's talk about the Middle East. I mean, give us the reasons to be excited about the region. And you've prepared this mind-blowing charts. Pick out one thing that we should get excited about.
Yeah, I mean, so you know, Middle East rolls up to Europe for most of the, most companies in the travel industry. And so the way I think you can think about it, there's 60 million people that live in the GCC countries in the Gulf who have incomes comparable to Western Europe. Travel frequency is way higher than Western Europe, and your average basket values are way higher. And then you have in the wider Middle East, there's about 450 million people in the total market today. That's sort of like that Arabic speaking part of the world. And then you can sort of bolt on Turkey, Pakistan, and you're up closer to like 600 million. So it's a sizable market, sort of. And it's extremely young. Median age 27.
Right, very similar characteristic to Africa.
While the economies are growing fast, it's still a little bit behind in terms of digital adoption. We're up to roughly 50. I mean, data's not great, but there's still about half being transacted online. On our B2C platform, we see about 40% of what gets booked is self-managed business, so people just figuring it out themselves, expensing it.
Okay. So amazing growth opportunity.
Yeah, and like tons of like the LCCs have like discovered the region. They've the bottom right hand sort of shows the difference, like LCCs in and out of Saudi. So it's a good time to be a consumer in the region, and it's game on for anybody who is looking for a new market.
It's a good time to be an OTA in that market too. So Gareth, and then there's China. And Gareth, I know you were in Chengdu, as with everybody. Did you have the mala hot pot?
Indeed.
Did it kill you?
It's very spicy.
and then you went to Shenzhen as well, which is Dida's HQ. Amazing innovation happening there.
Yeah.
But give us an update of what's happening on the ground there in terms of Chinese outbound. What's the sentiment about travel to Europe?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of Chinese outbound, I think we've been talking for a long time now about recovery, right, post-COVID.
Yeah.
Certainly China had restrictions for much longer than most other countries. But what I would say now is we shouldn't be talking about recovery, we're now talking about the evolution of outbound travel in China. So the good news is that in 2025, we're going to exceed the pre-COVID numbers. So we're looking at around 155 million outbound trips from Chinese travelers in 2025. That makes it the world's biggest outbound source market. And yeah, I mean, in terms of Europe, is the other point, is actually it's interesting to see that Europe taken as a whole, is displacing key places like Thailand as a top destination now. So I think it's 5th in terms of, if you take it as a region, it's 5th in terms of the destinations there. And I think another, similar to my colleagues here, talking about young travelers, there's a very young, affluent Chinese travelers now that are increasingly, they're seeking new experiences, explorational luxury, things off the beaten path. And a lot of that driven through social media, so from an inspiration perspective, but also increasingly from a conversion perspective, being driven through Chinese social media platforms.
Yeah,
so it's very interesting.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that trend across, I think, whether it's Africa, China, or Middle East, is sort of that deeper discovery that's being done by pushed by social, and we'll get into that later. But I now want to talk about, the painful part of your business, right? Which is everybody's got challenges and pain points, right? And Bio, I know at Cape Town we heard all about the challenges, like you got low credit card penetration, you got lots of fraud, you got global competition coming in, right? So right now you're talking about taking Wakanow outside Africa. Tell us about your plans to expand the Wakanow brand outside Africa.
I want to touch on fraud first, and then we'll talk about outside of Africa. It's so interesting that when we think about fraud in Africa, I always say we have a lot of fraud. That I opened up in the UK, and I have more fraud in the UK than I've ever seen in my life. For us, fraud is everywhere. Credit card fraud and security becomes even more paramount as we go global. We've since expanded Wakanow to 30 countries. Only 18 of those countries are in Africa. 12 of them are outside of Africa. And the reason for us is simple. We have to compete globally. We have global inventory. We have global access. We have inventory from the likes of Dida, from Expedia, from every single big player in the world. So why not take it to the world? Our technology is at par with everybody else. We are talking to partners like Wego for the Meta side, and we're also in the Middle East. We've been in the Middle East for over 10 years. We've been in Dubai for over 10 years as a business. And now we're taking our gospel to everywhere in the world. And what we've seen is the African diaspora recognizes our brand. And no matter where in the world they go to, they are able to then do business there. And what we've done is made our website, your ability to be in Singapore, but pay with Naira. So you can shop Singaporean dollars all through the website, and at the end, convert it to Naira and use your local bank account to pay for a transaction to fly that doesn't even touch Africa. And that way, what we're seeing is we are making payment easy for our diaspora customers that want to shop us. And that way, we are expanding the business to say that, look, you can shop me in this currency and pay in that currency as long as you're doing business on our website. And our success rate has been great. Our US business took off even faster than we thought. We passed $1 million of transaction in less than 30 days.
Right, so your current customers are the African diaspora who are familiar with the Wakanow brand name, right? Because if you're going to compete globally, you've got to build the Wakanow brand name into something that people trust everywhere.
Correct, and we can't punch at, when people say when you get into the yard, you go punch the biggest guys, it takes a lot of money to punch the likes of Expedia when it comes to travel, or Booking.com, right? But what we go after is our immediate people that we know, that know us. So we don't have to build credibility with them again, because most likely the first time they were going to that country, they used us. So now they're using us to fly from London to France, from France to Frankfurt, and they're doing business with us. And those are the customers we're going after first as we continue to expand and build credibility with others.
All right, so Ross, what is the product innovation you're working on right now to increase your market share? I mean, in the Middle East, the global OTAs are dominating the hotel sector.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're doing well in flights. What are you doing to up the ante there?
Yeah, we're very much a flight-led. I mean, we sell a lot of hotel rooms, but we're very much flight-led. Spent a lot of time over the last year plus building a next-generation flight shopping engine. So, stealing a few ideas from the guys from ITA Matrix back in the days, and trying to get everything pre-computed into memory so we can shop it super fast and support all the sort of open queries our customer base are looking for. And then giving us a framework to then sort of add all of the rail and the virtual interlining itineraries that we want to be able to bring to market. So that's sort of a major initiative, and then trying to bring like all of the superpowers that we've suddenly got with these sort of AI systems. So trying to like layer that over the top of all the existing surfaces we've got. So.
Okay. All right. So Gareth, I mean, B2B tech, really hot space. Everybody's getting in there, and making lots of money. What trends are you seeing, with Dida, like going across China? You are expanding across all verticals. You're going out of China as well. So you're going to be like this big global player as well, right?
Yeah, we're working on it, certainly. I mean, I think what's interesting in B2B tech is the lines are blurring, right, between tech, content, distribution. And I think that's opening up a lot of opportunities in B2B tech across the whole value chain. I think some of the key trends that we're seeing is very much B2B tech is becoming much more of a platform business, where B2B buyers are looking for, one contract, one API. They want everything to be, they want global access to all the product across all the different verticals as well. So that's definitely a key thing. I think the other thing that has been lacking in B2B for a long time is a very kind of pilot high, kind of sell it fast to as many people as possible, but without looking at the differences, right, between, so for example, how can we, using AI, sorry for that terminology, but how can we actually much better tailor at scale? How can we tailor the right product to the right market
the right
and the
partner.
right person even, to the right partner in the right way, right? And that's something that I think we're seeing a big change within B2B. And of course, in B2B, there's this wider change that's been happening for some time, but is accelerating, which is the move from kind of static rates and content to much more dynamic rates and content, which obviously will really help everybody.
And hopefully we'll sort of have more transparent, rates out there that, the rates are not leaking out into the market.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let's talk about the competition, right? Which makes life more interesting for all of us, right? Bayo, you said that global OTAs are entering Africa because there's inbound travel demand coming in. So the competition is getting, a dog-eat-dog world kind of out there. And you said that the entry of global OTAs were prompting you to challenge some assumptions that you had made about the African market.
Correct.
What are some of the assumptions that they are challenging?
Sometimes when you play local, you think too local, and then a global player comes and brings a global perspective. We before thought that we look at data and says that the card penetration is low. So therefore, customers won't use card as much. We know that crypto will not be a way to pay. And then a global player comes into the market and people are paying the global player with crypto and cards, then it challenges your thinking. And then it makes you start to think that these things that we've neglected may actually have propensity for us to success. So what we've done is those thinking. Number one is, how do we continue to ground ourselves and build institutions locally to be an institution that cannot be challenged by global players? For instance, we just went and bought a bunch of roundabouts. I mean,
What do you mean?
So when you drive, so all our marketing now, we're doing a lot of local marketing because the global players come.
You bought the roundabouts.
The roundabouts, yeah.
Okay.
So all the marketing in local roundabouts now belongs to us because the guys come and do. On Google, for instance, they buy my keyword. We're talking about that.
Yeah.
And they spend a lot of dollars on that keyword. I'm sure it's small in the grand scheme of things, right, on the global scale, but to us is massive. So we know that we can't go head-to-head with them on digital alone. So we have to go on digital, we have to go on physical. We know they can't come on physical, that's the offline channels. So we go add on the offline channels to make sure that. We know they also don't understand the customer to do conversational commerce. Conversational commerce allows us to, the African customer likes to talk a lot. They like to interface with you and ask you, are you sure? Are you sure? They would ask, are you sure? Are you sure actually AI is picking up, are you sure for us? Being used more times than to affirm the purchase. And those are things that we understand, that we are holding true to ourselves. But then understanding that we also can go to their market and compete. We also can go to their market and take share. We also can take the technology that we've built for our local market in Africa. We can also take it to the global stage and compete, and that's exactly what we're doing.
All right. So Ross, to your market now, so I know you say you're flight-led, but you're going into a hotel, you're doing a hotel bed as well, right? Competing with Dida in the hotel bed category.
And partnering.
And partnering. So everybody's competing and partnering, but how how are you competing against the global OTAs for this accommodation market?
Yeah, I mean, we have the luxury of being super focused on the Middle East region, and we are going deep. So we are sort of set out to contract directly every hotel in the region that's worth having, and then our OTA friends around the world sort of like started asking, could they sell our supply? So we've spun up a proper bed bank to service them, and we're plugging in as many of the global demand partners as we can to aggregate the demand to bring to the hotels. Not rocket science, but super focused on that market. And then we've got 100 million people in the Middle East who have our mobile app installed, so our B2C reach is pretty extensive. And a lot of them are coming to us for flights, so the opportunity is on us to figure out how to package, how to cross-sell the hotel.
Yeah, which brings me to my point about B2B, right? I mean, right now, people like Ross, Expedia, Booking, Agoda, they're building massive B2B businesses. At the same time, they have a massive B2C business, right? So how do you compete when you don't have a B2C arm? How do you stand the test of time here?
I think the short answer is by being laser focused and attempting to be the very best pure B2B partner that you can be. So I think a lot of the larger B2C players, they obviously have scale, which is very useful for them. But in some respects, they're competing, with their partners and also with hotel partners in terms of the brand.com. And I think that's where players like Dida can come along and say, look, we're here to work in harmony with your direct marketing. We're here to drive incremental bookings from high-value channels that don't in any way cause any issues with your brand marketing. And I think if we're laser focused on that, and at the end of the day, being fully B2B, we're ground up, developed everything to be focused from APIs, from the service, in all the different ways in which we interact. It's that purity of focus, I think, that enables us to compete.
So purity and clarity, all right. So let's move on to our last theme, which is next generation. We talked about the youth population, heavy use of social. And I found this slide in WiT Africa really interesting, like the top 3 interests of Gen Z in Africa: music, entrepreneurship, and books and literature. And then in Dubai, we got a list from M&C Saatchi Group, which is basically said food, events, and fashion were, what were pleasing the Gen Z. So let's look at a comparison. I just felt it was interesting to compare the top 3 interests of Gen Z in those 2 markets, right? And obviously, with this, you see a lot of social commerce, right? And I want to bring up the example of TravelStart that did this content, and it says that the content that converts has got to be like often weird, emotional, or hyper-specific. And this was an ad that was promoting cosmetic surgery. It's a big theme here in Istanbul, and they sold a lot of sales through that. So how are you using social at all? I mean, Bayo, how are you using social?
Social is big. Music is even bigger for us. I can't. The music industry, the Afrobeat movement that started from Nigeria, has become a big movement that we're now seeing people crossbreed that into Amapiano in Southern Africa to and across the continent. There is a concert happening in Portugal called Afro Nation. Right now, Portugal is indexing as a place that we're selling a lot more tickets to than we've ever done because of just one concert in one part of the world. Again, we now have to leverage social. We have to leverage influencers to pass the message across. Right. But the biggest thing is shopping. Are we adaptive to the shopping pattern or the way they like to shop, which is fundamentally different from the Gen X, right, or the millennials? When in our website, can we accommodate both of them in one world? And the answer for me is no. And what we've done is that we've spun off smaller brands, one called onboard.com, that all it does is Gen Z. You can buy with one click. We're working on one swipe buy, where you find a deal, you swipe left, you put your card in, you buy, and you move on, just like Amazon. Because, again, it's the simplification of the shopping that then makes us attractive to them once we understand that music, entertainment, entrepreneurship drives them. My biggest corporate, by the way, is a company that is on the entrepreneur side. And they're my biggest company because they're crisscrossing the world quite a bit. And how do we talk to those customers? How do we shop with them? How do we even understand the language they speak? Because our English is quite different, right? The words they use that mean something different to all of us on this panel. And how do we make sure that we can index to them is the frontier that we're working on.
Absolutely, I think, and Ross is definitely working on that too. You know, in Dubai, we really also saw, you know, like there's this influencer, is a Saudi influencer, like he just became a travel agent because, you know, he was getting inquiries on his social and say, how can I buy this trip? And he started a travel agency. So really, we're seeing that definitely a blurring of lines as we keep saying, right? So how are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, key characteristic of the Middle East, there's like a lot of distrust around official media. And so people decide who they're going to transact with by sort of asking their friends, or, you know, social media is kind of the modern manifestation of that at scale. Influencer marketing, I think, is bigger in the Middle East than anywhere else on the planet, for all categories, including travel. And, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to, you know, build the platforms that the influencers use to, you know, go out and do their thing and monetize it. So sort of, so we're kind of acting as a marketplace, mixing, you know, combining influencers with brands, and they're sort of using our platform to connect.
So you know, when I was in Alula, you know, I attended the Instagram Creator Summit, and the Meta people were basically saying that in Asia, they are actually seeing social, you know, convert into commerce faster than, say, in Middle East or Europe, you know, so there's that conversion into commerce that's happening, right? And in China, Douyin, you know, they do about $40 billion in travel total transaction value in 2024, just in the travel vertical, with short-form videos and just converting, right? So tell us about the China market and how social commerce is happening, and if there are lessons that we can learn here.
Yeah, I mean, this is an area we're paying a lot of attention to because it's, as you say, it's such a big driver now of outbound Chinese travel. I think what we're seeing is kind of three main trends. One of them is, as you say, it's around using social media as the main form of inspiration. So most people deciding their travel based on that, which is also leading to much shorter lead times as well, because it tends to drive that behavior from a booking perspective. I think the second thing, and you touched on it a moment ago, is about being authentic. And what we're seeing is that it's not so much the glossy, produced kind of advertising that it works. What connects is influencers have their place, but it's almost like these micro-influencers, or even, you know, just travelers sharing their experience. And that's what people want to see because they see it as authentic and therefore they can trust it. Whereas they always have the doubt that they're being, you know, just being paid to say something in that. So that's a big, you see a lot of that where you can create a lot of content very cheaply and effectively by making use of that user-generated content. And also the third element, which you've mentioned there, is definitely a massive driver. Is it's not just now about the inspiration, which social media has been doing that for years, right? In China in particular, it's becoming a major channel of conversion. So people are directly booking through these channels. So basically what this means is if your brand isn't present in social media in China, which isn't easy unless you've got a local partner to help you with that, right? Then you're really going to struggle to ever, you know, to ever attract those.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that trend, right? OTAs like Expedia, and then I think Tour Radar just launched their Moments as well, and you can buy a tour, you know. Okay, so let's end this panel with a game. I mean, you know, it's the end of the day. We're keeping you from your drinks, and so we're gonna get you involved now, okay? And we're gonna play this, and you can play it too. It's like, would you beta test this idea? And as I share this innovation, stand up if you volunteer to beta test it, but remain seated if you don't think that you don't want to do it. Okay, so the first one is a teleportation pod with a 10% chance of landing in the wrong city. Who's gonna stand up for that?
Oh, I would do that.
In the wrong
You
city?
do that, right?
Do that.
Stand up. Okay,
Do
stand up. There you go. Everybody wants. Mystery, excitement. Okay. All right. The second one, an AI travel companion that sounds like Morgan Freeman and offers unsolicited wisdom.
Sure.
Nah,
Yeah.
cancel flights.
All right. Okay. 3, sleep pods at airports that auto-post your snore levels to social media. I'm going to sit for that.
Yeah.
Okay, 4, hotel rooms that change decor based on your mood and playlist.
Sure.
Come on. Especially Afrobeats.
I know.
Especially Afrobeats, okay.
Cool.
All right, flight upgrades determined by your TikTok follower count.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Because we're not on
I'll never get
TikTok. We
upgraded
can see
again.
the younger people doing it, okay. And this is my favorite. Okay, I want everybody standing up for that. Luggage that follows you like a puppy and whines if it's left behind. Stand up, everybody.
Go with it.
I think that's a cool idea. All right. Thank you for indulging us in that game. Okay, so final question to the panelists here. If Gen Z were to run your company today, what's the first thing they would do?
They'll fire me.
They'll fire you? Yeah? Gareth?
I hate to use the word, but it's going to be AI-driven.
AI-driven?
I think we'd probably be fully remote by lunchtime.
Oh, please join me in thanking my panelists, but before you do that, well, thank you for...